while we're waiting on them, I'll just quickly explain that they're going to use the same party formation, one fighter, one thief, one black mage, one white mage, currently believed to be the optimal party for this category. That's due to we're using an equipment glitch in this category that allows us to obtain extremely powerful and overpowered equipment that will make the run considerably safer and a lot quicker for us throughout the entirety of the run. Here we see them doing the first such glitch of this. They quickly go over to our weapon shop, buy a hammer, and then they run over here, use the equipment glitch to turn that into a piece of armor called the Knight's Armor, which they put one copy on each of their characters, and then they create one additional copy which they take off, sell for money, and use that to buy potions, antidotes, and lives that should help them out throughout the entirety of the run. So they do this glitch to do that. But that pretty much encompasses the first minute of gameplay in this run. Is we run over, buy that, glitch everything, purchase our items that we need for the run, and then we walk out of the castle to head toward the first mini dungeon of the game, the Chaos Shrine. So both of them are en route right now. And you'll notice they're both getting a handful of random encounters. This is going to be a common theme throughout this run, that they get a number of random encounters. And it's going to play a huge factor in this race. I mean, the skill level of these players is very high, and the randomness of the game is also very high. So unlike a lot of the other races you may have been watching on the Speed Gaming channel or many of the other tournaments, luck plays probably a much more considerable factor in the outcome of who can win these races. But execution and skill of the runner definitely does matter. The runners have both entered the Chaos Shrine here, and then they detoured over to this little room to pick up a leather cap. We do this because we can perform another equipment glitch. In this case, we can turn the leather cap into a judgment staff, a piece of item or a staff that will allow us to cast flare if you used it as an item in combat. This should help us take care of almost every large pack of enemies in the game, and in this case, against Garland, it's actually stronger than any of the weapons we can get this early in the game, so we'll just hit him over the head and try to knock him down. Nicky with a quick early lead here, but an early lead here is not necessarily going to mean much in the long run. There's plenty of opportunities for either of these players to get ahead and take a much more substantial lead later on. I believe both of these runners are on emulator. There are a handful of other players in this tournament, including myself, who run on an actual PSP. You may notice some visual differences if you're looking carefully that would clue you into which particular platform they're using. But other than that, there's not going to be a significant difference. Emulator may load faster, and it has a little quicker save times, I think, compared to console, but it's pretty negligible over the course of a run. So after they take down Garland, we escort the princess back to the castle. We talk to the princess, and she hands us this key item loot, which will come into play at the very end of the game. But if we try to leave the room without talking to her, she'll trigger a little cutscene that will hand us the loot anyway. Once we've gotten that, we head out of the castle, and it triggers this little cutscene here, where now that we've rescued the princess, the king has agreed to build us a bridge so that we can continue on with our adventure. So this is just one of a handful of little cutscenes throughout the game that slows the game down a little bit, but for the most part, this game will be players running from point A to point B to get to where they need to be going. So what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal here is they showed up here in this land, especially Cornelia, each of the 4 warriors carrying a crystal, and they need to use each of these crystals to restore the 4 elemental crystals that are hidden throughout 4 dungeons in the land. So they'll make their way first to the Earth crystal, but they're not going to be going there for probably another 20 minutes at this point. We have a number of fetch quests we're going to have to perform in order to be able to access that dungeon in the first place. So Nehbless is crossing the bridge and triggers this little cutscene, which is skippable. You just got to wait a few seconds before you can trigger the skipping part. Nicky is now on her way over to the next town, Provoca. There's a group of pirates over there which have a ship that we can borrow, or more appropriately liberate from them. So we'll head over there and try to pick up the ship. The players will be running through this forest to get over there. Forest tiles have some of the highest encounter rates in the entire game, so you're going to get a lot of encounters over the course of this. And the strategy for 90% of the encounters is to try and run. If you see them struggle with an encounter, they may choose to use their judgment staff to take out a stingy pack of enemies, or if you see them attack or otherwise take out a staff, it's perhaps because it's an unrunnable encounter. We won't see anything for a while. But yes, like any true American, we're liberating the ship from the pirates. But moving on, Nicky is the first one into Provoca, and she's just going to head over and talk to the pirate and his henchman over here. There's going to be 9 pirates in this fight, so if she was to attack individually, it would take a couple rounds of combat. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to use the judgment staffs we picked up. We're going to actually trigger it on 3 different of our characters so that whichever one happens to go first will land it and kill them all. Pretty much in sync right now. Yeah, they're pretty neck and neck, but that's probably going to change over the course of the run. Again, it doesn't mean much at this stage of the game. You can get through this cutscene and pick up the ship maybe a minute faster in the best case of scenarios, but it can change very, very quickly, the RNG. So this is a good start. Yeah, they're both synced once again. Now that we have the ship, we have access to the ocean here, so we're going to head next to the Marsh Cave. They may detour over to this next town that's along the way called Elfheim. They're both getting an encounter here. These are particularly nasty encounters, especially the Sahagin Big Eyes. The Shark Sahagin on Nicky's side, they can occasionally prove difficult to run from. The same with this Big Eyes group. The Big Eyes only attack is this gaze attack, which takes a couple seconds to cast and may paralyze their players. So Nicky ducks into Elfheim here to pick up about a dozen gold needles. This is an item that will help us with petrification later in the run. We don't need it at this point in time, but it actually is pretty convenient to pick it up here and saves some steps on the overworld to go do that. I personally prefer to do that at that time in a race setting too. So Nicky's getting a bunch of wolves. This is probably the worst kind of encounter we can expect in this early part of the run, is a bunch of wolves, because they can be problematic to run from. They may not let us run for 1 or 2 rounds, or we could run immediately. And there's really no telling without trying first. Ogres tend to be pretty easy to run from. They may also encounter some packs of undead enemies that have a chance to paralyze our players on attack. And particularly unlucky encounters could leave us in a bad position here. Oh, I'm doing it again. No, am I? Sorry about that. I guess I was behind. Looks like... Alright, Nicholas, we've skipped ahead a little bit. Nehbless is now in the Marsh Cave on the 2nd floor. There's 3 floors down here. And we're going down to the 3rd floor to pick up the crown, which is in a chest, guarded by a number of Pisco demons. Oops. Before this encounter, Nehbless is opting to heal, which is probably a smarter play, because these Pisco demons, you can have anywhere from 2 to 4 in this encounter, and they can hit your party members pretty hard, despite the fact that we've put a knight's armor on each of the characters, raising their defense significantly. And Nikki is getting into an encounter here with zombies and ghouls. This particular undead pack is giving her some trouble. But she's gotten off a judgment staff with her white mage, so she's no longer at risk here. But if all 4 party members get paralyzed, that can result in a huge time loss, or if you're really unfortunate, a wipe. And a wipe at this point, when neither of the players is safe since the start of the game, would be pretty devastating. So Nehbless got through. Nehbless picked up the crown, and Nehbless is just going to head straight back out the way he came in. Nikki, on the other hand, is just about to the crown. I don't know if she healed beforehand. Looks like she did, or at least she's pretty well healed, so she's not really at risk here. She got more Pisco Demons than Nikki did, so Nehbless is now that he's picked up the crown, he's going to make his way up to Western Keep, which is just north. We pretty much go straight north to get to Western Keep. At Western Keep, we'll talk to the Elf King Astos, who will not talk to us unless we have the crown. So we need the crown in order to be able to talk to him, and then once we hand him the crown, we'll realize it was a trap all along, and he wanted us to just take control of that. So then he'll attack us. This looks like a stingy wolf encounter for Nehbless, so Nehbless is choosing to use his judgment staffs as a weapon just to smack him on the head and get him out of the way. Nikki is using that time to try to catch up. And Nehbless makes his way to Astos here. The strategy for Astos here is we're going to try to finish it in 1 round by having our Thief and Warrior use their judgment staffs as a weapon, and our mages use it as an item to try to cast Flare. And depending on the damage rolls and depending on the attack that Astos uses, this may end in 1 round, or it may require more than 1. Nikki's made her way now there. We had a low damage roll on White Mage's Flare, but the death cast by Astos misses. So that's going to be just about enough, I think, for Nehbless to finish this in 1 round. If it's not, it's going to take just 1 more hit. Nope, he got it. Okay. Astos has 420 HP, if you were wondering. The Black Mage will almost always do over 200 with the Flare. The White Mage can do over 100 or over 200, depending on the damage roll. And got the low roll for Nikki, but the melee attacks made up the difference. So they both got it down in 1 round. Neither player had a problem with death. That can cause some occasional problems. Mostly it just delays us a few seconds because we want to resurrect that character if the character happens to die to the death spell that Astos casts. Once we've killed Astos, we've picked up the Crystal Eye, which is another item we need along this early fetch quest. We're going to go ahead and return to our ship and then take that eye over to the Witch Matoya in her cave. She has an item that we need called the Jolt Tonic, and we'll exchange the crystal for the Jolt Tonic. So they're both making their way here. Nehbless is just passing Elfheim now on the way back to his ship. And Nehbless is actually parked the farthest away, at the farthest tile away. The advantage of doing that is that walking along these dock tiles, or these clearly bordered tiles, you can't get an encounter on them. So some players may choose to walk along dock tiles as much as possible and park their ship to reduce the number of total tiles you can get an encounter on. It may or may not make a difference, but we'll have to see. So Nehbless takes another opportunity to do it there. I do it that way too, personally, but I mean, it's a lot of preference. It can be faster to just park it at the nearest tile to where your destination is, and then walk, but you're risking more encounters, and encounters tend to waste more times than a single walk on a tile. So they both made it up here, and they're making their way to Matoya's cave up here, getting a handful of wolves. Nehbless again choosing to attack this wolf. They are a runnable enemy. They can just be stubborn to run from occasionally. Goblins are pretty easy to run from, generally. Another large pack, and in this case it ambushed Nehbless. I haven't talked about this yet. There's two special types of encounters you can get, preemptives and ambushes. And when an ambush happens, each enemy will get at least one attack in, and that can, depending on the enemy, that can be particularly dangerous. But I mean, at the worst case, at the best case, it just slows you down. At the worst case, it can be really deadly. And there's also preemptive attacks, in which our characters get a free round of attacks, and in most cases, almost every encounter that you can get preemptive should be runnable. So our characters will take the first opportunity to run, and it will be guaranteed. The actual text that shows up with telling you either ambushed or preemptive can waste a little time compared to a normal encounter. So you could, technically the fastest possible encounter is getting just a normal encounter with neither preemptive nor ambush, and then just being able to run immediately. But the good thing about an ambush, or about the preemptive, is at least it guarantees that you can run away without wasting too much time. They both now have the Jolt Tonic. The Jolt Tonic can be used to revive the Elf Prince, who's currently been put asleep by a spell. So over by Elfheim, we're going to travel back over there and give it to the healer, who will use it to wake the Elf Prince. The Elf Prince will reward us with the Mystic Key, which is a very important item that will give us better access to a number of locations that are locked throughout the game. Particularly, a bunch of treasure rooms are locked. It's like Nehbless is still in the lead at the moment, although Nicky's quite literally right behind. They both got in, and they're in the castle here. So we'll trade the Jolt Tonic here, and the Prince will reward us with the Mystic Key. And then the very first such use of the Mystic Key will be right here in the same castle. But we'll first exit the castle and then re-enter, because it's actually faster to do that than it would be to walk around to where the treasure room is from right here. So it's quicker to exit the town and re-enter to get to the treasure room. Inside the treasure room in one chest is a mithril hammer, and we'll use this to perform another equipment glitch for our characters. This will be an important glitch, though. Here we'll put an item called the Thief's Armlet on the helmet, armor, and glove slots of each of our characters. This is a stronger piece of armor than the Knight's armor was, and the advantage is it also raises our agility and combat stats. And agility is an important factor for our characters in determining who can and cannot run from combat. It raises our characters' chance to go earlier in combat, and it also gives them a better chance to run from encounters. Here we see Nehbless ducking in to pick up the gold needles. He opted to skip it earlier, so this is when he's picking it up now. Nicky already did this, so Nicky could just head straight to the ship and continue on. So Nicky's taking a slight lead here. And here's a shark encounter for Nicky. This could be a stubborn one, but no, it lets her run. And Nicky makes her way over. So now that we have the Mystic Key, again, we have access to a number of rooms that were previously locked, including one here at the back of Cornelia Castle. In here, we'll find one of the key items, the nitro powder. The nitro powder, we'll take it over to a place called Mount Dwerger and hand it to a dwarf who will use it to blow a canal that will grant us access to the rest of the ocean. We've been landlocked in this little part of the game for the first 20 minutes of the game, and once we take it over there, we'll have access to the rest of the ocean, and we can start making our way over towards the first elemental cave, the Cavern of Earth. So Nicky's made her way over here now, and she's making her way to Mount Dwerger. Nehbless is sailing over, but he got a Sahagin pack. Sahagins tend to act faster than your party and can occasionally be difficult to run from. So they could be occasionally a troublesome encounter. Looks like Nehbless gets away from it, though. Nicky's doing pretty good. Neither player's had particularly bad RNG to this point, and it's been pretty even to this point. Oh, here's a wolf ambush, though. That's going to slow Nehbless down a little bit. Nicky's made her way now, and she's going to hand the nitro powder over here and trigger a little cutscene over here. This wolf pack proving troublesome for Nehbless, so he opts to staff it so we can continue on. So this is another of the mini cutscenes that plays throughout this game. Probably one of the longer ones, honestly, in this game. Otherwise, we're pretty much, there's just more or less just pretty much straight action throughout the run. There's just a handful of points where a little cutscene plays and just gives us a little moment to breathe. So Nicky mashes there to skip that little part because that part of the cutscene is skippable. But the rest of this has to play out as normal. So now that we've blown the canal open, there is an opening for our ship to pass through, so we'll start making our way over to the Cavern of Earth. Right after we pass through the canal, however, we're pretty close to another town called Melmond, and we'll actually detour in there quick to pick up another item that we'll use for yet another equipment glitch at this point. It's arguably the most important piece of equipment in the entire run, however. We'll pick up an item called the Steel Gloves from the shop, and we'll use that to glitch a weapon called the Barbarian Sword. It is an item that was added in this particular version of Final Fantasy as part of it's a bonus item that's available in some of the bonus content in this version, and it's only available in this version. It's not even in the GBA version or the PlayStation remakes. It's the strongest sword in the game, and it's typically only available from the strongest boss at the end of the PSP exclusive bonus dungeon. Has a ridiculous amount of attack power, and it also provides a strength boost to our character, allowing us to one-shot nearly any enemy in the game, except for maybe the bosses. So Nicky's made her way over here and has putting the Barbarian Sword on each of her characters. One of the advantages of the glitch is it doesn't necessarily respect the class restrictions. I mean, normally only the warrior or a knight could actually equip the Barbarian Sword, but due to the specifics of the equipment glitch, we can put a copy on each of our characters. So even though a white mage is ill-suited to swords, the white mage can easily wield the sword here and do just as much damage as our other characters. Nehbless starts making his way into Melmond to pick up the Steel Glove as well and do that. You may also see them sell their knight's armors that they created earlier in the game just for more money. It's not something we need right now, but it's something that we'll need a little later in the run. Nicky has now made her way to the Cavern of Earth. The Cavern of Earth, it's 5 floors deep. But we'll actually have to make 2 trips through here due to the way this dungeon is designed. We can go down to the 3rd floor, but access beyond the 3rd floor is blocked until we pick up an item called the Earth Rod. We can't get the Earth Rod at this point in time, but in order to get the Earth Rod, there's an item down here on the 3rd floor that we need and able to make our way over there. So Nicky's heading down there first, and she gets a large wolf pack that she's able to run from, so it helps her out right now with the lead. She got a tile on an encounter on the last possible tile before heading onto that. This is the 3rd floor of Cavern of Earth. This is the first real danger spot of the run. We could get in. She got an ambush here by an undead pack, which could prove dangerous depending on if they can paralyze a number of her characters. You may see Nehbless taking a save here because there are also some enemies called cockatrices here, which can petrify our party. We picked up the gold needles earlier to help with any characters that get petrified, but if we happen to get ambushed and attacked by enough of them before we can act, it can result in a party wipe, which is pretty devastating. So Nicky opts not to take the save, but it is a rare occurrence that it can, that a cockatrice occurrence can happen, and take you down, but it has happened in previous races, so it's generally recommended to take a save here. Nicky's getting an encounter with Pisco Demons. You may remember them from the Marsh Cave. They can be a random encounter here, and unfortunately they're the first unrunnable encounter of this run. So if they happen to run into them, they're going to have to spend some time killing them. And depending on the number that show up, it may be faster to use their staff or attack with their barbarian swords to take them down. Nicky's the first one to make it to the vampire. The vampire is guarding this chest here. This chest contains the Star Ruby, which is an item we need to pass through the Giant's Cave and to reach the Sage's Cave so that we can pick up the Earth Rod I mentioned earlier. It's not possible for us to go any further in this dungeon at this time because we need the Earth Rod in order to proceed beyond this floor. So Nicky has the Star Ruby. Nehbless is just starting the fight with Vampire. It's a pretty simple fight. It's just one attack with any of our characters should be enough to take him down. If the Vampire happens to act first, he may cast a gaze attack or do some damage to our characters. Nicky getting another undead encounter. And having some difficulty running from this one. And Nicky's doing a little half measure here where she's actually opting to try to flee with one of her characters, and if that character doesn't happen to go first or doesn't happen to flee, she queued up Judgment Staff attacks with her mages, which will guarantee that this combat should end in one round. It's generally faster to either queue it up with all your characters or at least your mages and then defend with your other characters so that they can get to act first, or to attack your with everyone. But it's going to depend on the encounter type you run into and the number of enemies. If you run into like more than 4 enemies and it happens to be an unrunnable encounter, it's clearly going to be quicker to staff them. If it's between 2 and 4, it's going to depend probably mostly on whatever they've previously queued in prior battles. So, I mean, the memory cursor will help them out with this respect. So if they happen to run in 2 consecutive packs of like Pisco Demons, and it's large packs, they can just hold A and it will remember each of the combat actions they did in the last round and quickly queue all the attacks up for us. Nehbless getting ambushed by gargoyles, which are not particularly dangerous. They can just waste time for us. And they have a high number of attacks, but our high defense reduces the damage down. Nicky's the first one out, so she's got a lead again. Another encounter that Nehbless is struggling with, so he's just trying to keep this going by staffing these encounters to keep himself going. Nicky's just getting a lot of undead. So Nicky heads first over here to this Giant's Cave, and we'll hand the Star Ruby that we picked up to the Giant. The Giant's blocking our path and won't move unless we feed him the Star Ruby. She gets... Nehbless almost out of the cave now. So now that the Giant's out of the way, Nicky will proceed to the end of the cave, and she'll make her way over here along this to the Sage's Cave. She's getting yet another ambush with undead. She's having particular trouble with them in this run, and another 3 characters paralyzed. So she's riding a fine line right now with these encounters. It's paid off so far, but we'll have to see if that continues to be the case. Nehbless hands the Star Ruby over to the Giant. Nicky getting an encounter here with Shadows. For whatever reason, every encounter you have with the Shadows will either be preemptive or an ambush. And in this particular version of the game, it's generally about 90-10 in favor of a preemptive, so an ambush is rather unlucky. Not particularly dangerous, as they don't paralyze like many of the other undead enemies we run into. They just try to blind us, which has no effect in this one. So Nicky, now that the vampire is been defeated, the Sage will reward us with the Earth Rod over here. And once we have the Earth Rod, we have everything we need to be able to reach the first elemental crystal and the fiend that is guarding it, the Lich. So we'll head back there. But unfortunately, there's no quick way to do that. And another ambush for Nikki. So she's just getting really, really unlucky with the undead in this run. Only 2 of her characters are paralyzed, so she's taking the half measure again where she tries to flee or queue up a Judgment Staff. And in this case, it worked out for her. But you can see they're basically neck and neck again. Nikki with a very, very slight lead of maybe 20 seconds right now. Ambush slowing Nehbless down over here. Okay, so Nikki's the first one in for the return to Cavern of Earth. She's going to make her way the exact same path we did the first time. We'll see if she opts to safety save or not this time. Nehbless is almost in there. Okay, so Nikki's here. I don't believe she is safety saved at this point. So she's at a little risk of dying if she gets a really unfortunate ambush. But other than that, she's not in particular trouble from the third floor encounters. Once again, she looks like she's not going to opt to save. So she's trading speed for a little safety. This Wraith pack that she's running into, she's once again trying a little half measure. Both of the characters that tried to flee, unfortunately, get paralyzed before they could act. So she's using the Judgment Staff to end this pack. It is a runnable encounter. It could just slow her down if she fails to run. Nehbless taking the safety save at the beginning of this floor, just in case of a cockatrice attack or a really unfortunate paralock. That stone slab, we use the Earth Rod there to clear it out of the way, and now we can proceed to the final 2 floors of the dungeon. Here's a cockatrice encounter for Nikki. In this case, she's doing the half measure again, with the half running, half staffing, just to guarantee it's going to end in 1 round. That is a runnable encounter, and it's not typically that dangerous to run for, not that hard to run from, but it can occasionally be problematic. Nehbless getting slowed down by undead and choosing to staff it just for the safe play. Nikki's getting Pisco Demons here, which are an unrunnable encounter. So now she's flipped it over to defending for her warrior and thief so that their turns will basically be skipped as they come. Nehbless getting the same pack of enemies. And then Nikki's almost there to the 5th floor. So you can see the staircase. She's just getting slowed by these Pisco Demons. Nehbless is on the same floor now, at the very start of it. Alright, Nikki's finally on the last floor here. She'll just make her way around. And then she should be taking a safety save before encountering the Lich. The Lich is capable of casting a spell called Lazara, which at these low levels for our characters is more than capable of wiping us, regardless if we heal or not. So there's really no reason to heal here. So Nikki's the first one into the fight. The Lich is a pretty straightforward fight. Basically, we're just going to tell all of our characters to attack with the barbarian swords, and so long as we act before he does, he should go down within 2 to 3 hits. That took just 2 hits for Nikki there. But Nehbless is right behind and just entering the fight as well. Players are, again, pretty close, not even 30 seconds apart at this point, and that's still plenty of opportunity for the lead to flip. Let's see. Oh, Nehbless gets Blazara, which is unfortunately going to probably, well, he survives that with just enough health. So he actually opted to heal his mages, and they had just enough to survive that, so that didn't have to reset that. A reset wouldn't have taken long, but it slows you down. So shortly after this cutscene, after we kill the Lich, this little cutscene plays out where we see one of the bonus dungeons that was first included in the Game Boy Advance remake, and then also included in this remake, open up. One of them opens up after you defeat each of the 4 fiends, and this short cutscene just gives you a heads up about that. We won't actually be seeing the bonus dungeons in this run, as unfortunately it would just waste time, and there's nothing that we need from them. But so we'll continue on. So Nicky is now out, and she's going to head back to the boat. And now that we have obtained the first, or reignited the first crystal, we have 3 more to do that. And actually the rest of this, the map is open to us, so we could flexibly do it at any order. I believe the developer intended order is probably the fire crystal, and then the water crystal, and then finally the air crystal. And we're actually going to follow the developer intended order because it tends to be the fastest way to do this. Now that we've defeated a Lich, we're going to head over to Crescent Lake. First going to go back to our ship and then sail over to a town called Crescent Lake. While we're there, we'll pick up another item for glitching, pick up a few ethers for later on in the run, and most importantly, we'll pick up a key item called the canoe that we couldn't pick up until we had defeated the Lich. We'll visit a circle of sages who will award us with the canoe, and the canoe will grant us access to some river areas that we couldn't access before. So Nicky's getting an encounter here with Sahag and Big Eyes and able to run from it. Both neck and neck again. Nehbless took a slight lead, but they're both still in an encounter and pretty much tied right now. So this is a very tight race so far. Nehbless looks to be a little bit closer to getting into the town, having a slightly better walk into Crescent Lake. So he'll stop first in this item shop and pick up ethers. And then we'll stop in this weapon shop and pick up an item called the Mithril Axe, and we'll use that to glitch another piece of armor called the Black Garb, and we'll put that on the 3 slots that we chose to put on earlier, but we'll put them only on the Thief and the Black Mage at this point in time, as it's the fastest way to do this. You could actually put it as well on the White Mage if you so chose, but it would require a formation change due to how the equipment glitch works. It would result in a slightly higher safety and higher agility for our characters, but it wastes a little time in the menu to perform that, so it's really just a runner's preference if they want to put it on 2 characters or 3 characters. 2 is more common. They both opt to put it on just 2 characters, and then Nehbless went over and picked up the canoe. Nicky's now heading her way over there. You can see that Nehbless used the canoe to cross that little lake that was right next to the town. And we're going to head back to our ship again and make our way next. We're going to detour, actually, into the ice cavern, as there's an important item we can use that would help speed us, along later in the run. Alright, so Nicky makes her way back to the ship. now that we have the canoe, we can actually travel along this little path and reach the ice cave. Rivers and marsh tiles tend to have some of the lowest encounter rates in the game, so you may see only a handful of encounters along this little sailing that they're doing. Both of them getting a pretty solid sail. And then right as we get in here, this is the beginning of the ice cavern. You may see the players take a safety save as they get here, or right as they get inside, because there's areas full of a lot of dangerous encounters that can wipe or really hurt the party down. So Nicky's getting a good run to start. Nehbless getting a pack of Pisco Demons, which is unrunnable. Again, not particularly dangerous, just slows us down. Nicky getting an encounter with Ice Gigas and Winter Wolves, which are actually unrunnable here. It's a pretty rare encounter, actually. So that will slow her down. Nehbless looks like the first one to reach the second floor. So the ultimate goal here is we're trying to reach an item that's called a Levistone, which we can use to raise an airship, which will allow us to travel. It's the fastest travel method in the game and will allow us to skip a lot of encounters by just flying through the air. So Nehbless makes his way here. He's making his way there. He gets this Dark Wizard pack, but thankfully for him it's a preemptive encounter. That could be a very, very dangerous encounter if it's a normal or ambush encounter. Nicky once again choosing to do her half flea, half staff approach. Nehbless steps onto some cracked ice and falls down. That's the only way, unfortunately, to reach the area. And then he steps immediately on a tile with a forced encounter. Oh, his health is really high. Nehbless's health is a little high here. As part of a level grinding setup we're about to do, we tend to make sure that our warrior and thief are under 70 HP before we run into a fixed encounter with an evil eye. Nehbless opted to heal earlier, and that put his health a little higher than normal, so he could walk on those little tiles there to reduce his health without getting into encounters. Unfortunately, now he's gotten into this ambush with a Dark Wizard, and I think that's going to be a wipe. I believe he did take a safety save, though. That's really unfortunate for Nehbless. He did take a safety save before he stepped on that forced encounter tile with this undead, so he's not going to lose a lot of time to that, but he's going to lose a little time to Nicky in this one. And he's going to have to run over those tiles again. Yeah, he's going to have to run over these tiles again to lower his character's health to set up the level grinding that will be coming up very shortly. Nicky's getting a pack here of Pisco Demons, and it's too large of a pack to be attacking it. So Nicky has made her way there. She's going to heal up her mages first and then try to leave her warrior and thief at low health, and then hope that this evil eye encounter casts Thundara to try to finish off our characters so that it leaves only our mages standing. And then we're going to grind on this fight because this is a forced encounter tile, so every time we step onto this tile we will get an encounter with the evil eye. And Evil Eye is one of the best encounters for grinding experience at this point in the run. So the Evil Eye is cooperative on the second round and takes it down. The ultimate goal here is to try to get level 18 for our mages. We need to purchase some spells later in the run, and we're trying to make sure that our characters are level 19 by the end of the Citadel of Trials. So in order to facilitate that, we grind here because this is the quickest spot that we know of grinding. We'll grind until our mages are level 18, and then we'll do one additional fight against Evil Eye, then resurrect our party, and then head out of the cave and make our way to the Citadel of Trials, where we should pick up the rest of the experience by the end of that dungeon. Nehbless top can take a safety save here. which is never a bad idea. If you happen to step onto one of these cracked ice tiles, you will fall down, and if you haven't picked up the levistone yet, or if you're in the middle of the grind, that can waste you a bunch of time because you got to walk back around, or otherwise find a better grinding spot in order to get the levels that we need. This typically takes maybe about 9 or 10 fights, depending on how much experience the runners have picked up earlier in the run, to gain them the levels they need in order to continue on. The grind itself takes maybe not more than 2 minutes usually, and this is the only such grind in the entire run. So after this, we won't be stopping. We'll just continue and power on through the rest of the dungeons. Nicky's looks to be all set, so she's resurrected her party, fallen down, and then stepped once more onto this forced encounter tile with undead, taking a half measure again with the flea staff. And now she's just trying to make her way out of the cave, so she's got to take these 2 floors, but instead of going down to head towards the levistone, this time she's going to head up and towards the exit. Nehbless choosing not to pick up the levistone yet, which could be a problem if he happens to fall down. Otherwise, it's not really going to be an issue. Looks to be all set, so he's picked up the levistone. Now that Nicky has it, she's going to make her way back to her ship and then sail over to the desert, where we can use the levistone to raise the airship from under the desert. So Nicky looks to be having a pretty solid sail at this point. Nehbless is making his way out. He's almost to the end of this floor, but he gets an encounter with this Ice Gigas winner. Unrunnable for him. Nicky docks her ship there and uses the canoe to get onto that little piece of land. Yeah, Nehbless's Black Mage has a ton of health right now. That's going to serve him well in the end of the game. I mean, a typical Black Mage will have far less than that at this point in the run. That's even more than I had the other night. Nicky unearths the airship, and now she's going to board that and head first to the Citadel of Trials, I believe. Our first destination. Unfortunately, there's not really a close landing spot, so this is the closest landing spot we know of, and we have to take a little bit of a walk to reach this place. So she's going to make her way over. Looks like she dodged a possible desert encounter with sandworms, which are pretty rare, but could be occasionally dangerous. Getting a pretty solid walk over there, though. So Nicky's got maybe a minute or 2 lead right now. Still plenty of time for this to be flipped around if the RNG deems it. But Nicky is now here in the Citadel of Trials. The first floor has no encounters, but the second floor is a bit of a teleporter maze. So she knows exactly where to go on this one. If she was to step on the wrong teleporter, it would teleport her back to the start of the floor, and she'd have to repeat some of these sections. But it's not a particularly troublesome area. The worst part it can be the encounters, though. Like, these Minotaur zombies are an unrunnable encounter, so this slows her down. There's some other dangerous enemies that can potentially hurt us here. They tend to be runnable, but if they happen to ambush us or we fail to run, they could be dangerous in certain situations. Horned Devils are runnable, but I mean, once again, they can just waste a bunch of time casting fire on our characters. The same with these Rakshasas. Nehbless has made it to raise the airship. These Mind Flayers are particularly dangerous. They have an attack called Mind Blast, which could paralyze all of our party members, or at least some of them, all in one go. And they also have a chance to kill our party members on attack. So if they happen to get like an ambush with some of them, it could be particularly dangerous. This nightmare encounter, it's a forced encounter when you step onto this particular tile. It actually is a runnable encounter, but with the equipment we have right now and the extreme agility of the other character, it can be difficult for us to run from it, so it tends to be faster for us to opt to attack these nightmares. So Nehbless is making his way over to the Citadel. Nicky's now on the final floor, trying to circle to the bottom. Along the way, she actually picked up a healing staff in that room with the nightmares, and at the bottom here, she's going to pick up this gauntlets. These are 2 items we're going to be using for glitching, but not at this point in time. We'll use them for much later in the run. And then finally, she goes here to pick up the rat's tail. We need this to perform the class change, which is the next destination. Nicky's now on her way out. She has to step on this tile, which is a forced encounter with dragon zombies, usually 1 or 2 of them. And by this point, she should have enough experience, level 19 for her mages, to be able to class change and purchase the spells we need all in one go. Nicky making her way back to the ship now. Nehbless is starting the teleporter puzzle. It's an encounter in that room, which is pretty unusual. And it's a Minotaur zombie, which is going to slow her down. Or, I'm sorry, to slow Nehbless down. So Nicky's almost back to her ship now, and should be heading to the Dragon Caves to perform the class change right here. Yep. Nehbless getting a Medusa encounter, and luckily for him getting away from that before they can waste any more time with gaze attacks. Nehbless getting another pack of Medusas, and also getting away this time as well. Alright, now that Nicky's class changed, her first destination is a little kind of hidden in the desert. You wouldn't know it by just looking at it over here. So she steps on this desert, on this tile here, and it opens a caravan. Inside, she purchases a bottled fairy, a key item we need to progress, and then she also will buy 11 Giant's Tonics, an item which may prove necessary for the final boss to guarantee a certain amount of safety. Once she has the bottled fairy, she heads over here to Gaia. This is where the fairies used to live. So once it's unbottled here, we head to the spring that's at the back of the town to talk with the fairy, and the fairy will reward us with a key item called the Oxyale, which we need to breathe underwater. Our next destination is actually a future destination is the water crystal. I don't believe Nicky went to Mount Gulg yet, so I think she's just detoured to do this before heading there. Nehbless just getting a bunch of encounters on the way back from heading out of the Citadel of Trials. So we ultimately need this Oxyale in order to do the Sunken Shrine dungeon, which houses the water crystal. That is very true, Aunt Foolish. That is very much a FF1 style trading chain. So Nicky will actually go here first to the Mount Gulg with a fire crystal at the bottom of it. And you'll notice that she tends to be walking on these lava tiles as opposed to the actual the earth tiles that are there. You can't get an encounter on the lava tiles, but they will damage your party. It's a small price to pay to lower the encounter rate and to speed up the run. She just has to be careful she doesn't get into an encounter with one or two certain enemies that could do enough damage to wipe our party if she steps on enough tiles and doesn't heal. Nicky's taking a bit of a risk here. Nope, she's opting to heal now. But she's using potions. Doesn't have the spells yet. She opted to go to Gaia and then over to Mount Gulg before picking up spells. A lot of players choose after the class change to go shopping for the spells once they have the levels, and they'll have Heal Aura here, which is a little bit faster than using potions in the menu. It's just a runner preference at this point. It's a very, very minor difference. So Nicky's made her way down here. A pretty clean Mount Gulg, and talk to the second of the 4 elemental fiends. In this case, this is Marilith. This strategy is going to be pretty much the same as Lich, and we're not particularly worried about her using an attack like Blizzard or anything like that, so we just go in and attack. We don't need a safety save beforehand. A little unfortunate death on the warrior there, but it's not really going to make things any different. Nehbless, now that he's class changed, is actually opting to pick up the spells first, so you can see a slight difference in how they did this. So he stopped over first in Melman to pick up Heal Aura for the White Mage and Teleport for the Black Mage. And then the only other spell we're going to need is over here in Alfheim. We'll pick up Haste for the Black Mage. Heal Aura will be used for the final boss. Haste will be used for the last 2 fights of the game. And Teleport will be used to speed up our exit or transition between dungeon floors or other caves, and just make things a little bit quicker. So Nehbless is now starting the dungeon that Nicky just finished, opting to do the Ether right at the very start of it and the heal right here. It's making it very safe. Shouldn't be any problems for Nehbless at this point. He'll probably just have to heal at some later point in the dungeon just to make sure that Marilith can't kill us. Nicky's now in the middle of the shopping section, so she's going to backtrack and do that now. So they did things in a slightly different order, but they're both doing the same thing ultimately. Not much to say here. They're both just plowing along, and Nicky with a slight lead, I think, at the moment, but it's not enough of a lead that could be safe at the end of the game. So we'll have to see if she can hold it or if the game will let her hold it. And Nehbless is has made it all the way to Marilith now, and we'll start that fight. Nicky, meanwhile, has already picked up the Oxyale, so she'll head immediately to the Sunken Shrine. Which is, the entrance is inside this town called Onrek over here. So Nicky's entered the Sunken Shrine now, and there's actually two things we have to do here. Finish up this dungeon in its entirety. We have to go two different directions to do two things. We start on the third floor, not like the first floor or a basement or anything like that. And on the fifth floor is an item we need, a key item we need called the Rosetta Stone, which we'll need to help access the next dungeon after this, or the next crystal dungeon after this. So we'll detour and pick that up first, and then we'll head to the bottom of the Kraken and reawaken the water crystal. So Nehbless is now doing the caravan section. So he's got to stop over, pick up the bottle fairy, and then head to Gaia and release the fairy. Nicky, in the meantime, is making her way through the shrine, and she got an encounter with this Sahagin Prince and Chief formation, which is an unrunnable encounter here. It's one of 3 unrunnable encounters here. The other ones being a pack of ghosts or packs of water elementals are also unrunnable here. So the more you get of these, the slower you go here. You're hoping to get just about anything else other than those 3 unrunnable encounters, but they tend to be pretty common here. So Nicky's now made her way to the 5th floor, and she's going to pick up the Rosetta Stone. There's no encounters on this floor. She's just got to walk around to reach it. I want to say she's a few minutes ahead of Nehbless at this point. But again, it's nothing that Nehbless can't make up if the RNG suddenly gives Nicky some terrible times. And here we see Nicky take advantage of the spells we purchased. In this case, it's teleport. We pick up the Rosetta Stone, and then we use the teleport spell to go back two floors, 1 floor at a time, and it puts us right back to where we transition to the following floor. So it heads us right back to pretty much the start, and then we head the other direction to start heading towards Kraken. Nehbless has landed. His ship is now heading over to Onrak to start the Sunken Shrine. Nicky, meanwhile, is just making her way down. Nope, and we get a ghost pack here, and Nehbless gets a Hellhound Ogre Mage formation, which is actually unrunnable here. It's a pretty unlucky encounter at this point. I mean, both are just basically slowing him down. Nicky getting another pack of ghosts, another unrunnable encounter here. So before we confront Kraken on this second floor here, we detour to pick up one more item that we'll use for yet another glitch at this point. In a chest in one room that's not far off the path, we'll pick up an item called the Light Axe. We'll use that to glitch an armor called the Survival Vest, which grants even more agility and safety to our characters. So we'll raise their chances of running to as high as they're going to be throughout the run. And we'll, just make it so that their turns come as quickly as possible. What you may see her do is you'll probably see her equip it on only 3 characters instead of 4, and then use one of the items we picked up there earlier, the healing staff, to glitch another piece of armor called the Lordly Robes on the White Mage to increase her intelligence. And we'll use that for later on in the run. That will tend to slow her down, though, so you may notice the White Mage from this point on acting later than the other characters in combat. So yeah, he's opting to put 2 Lordly Robes on 2 specific slots, the armor and the glove slots, and specifically not on the body slot, because the Lordly Robes, if you put it on there, actually has a regen animation that will play at the end of every combat round. But that does not trigger if you put it on the other slots, which it's not designed to go on normally. And Nehbless has now reached the 5th floor, so Nehbless will go and pick up the Rosetta Stone. Nicky's now actually on the final floor, and is just making her way around this long floor to reach Kraken. So again, she's just a few minutes ahead of Nehbless at this point. Nehbless teleporting back. And Nikki has made it there. That was a pretty clean floor for her. She just had a lot of encounters in the other floors that were particularly unrunnable. So, strategy for Kraken is not really any different than the others. We're just going to smack him with barbarian swords, and he should go down in 3 or 4 hits usually. 2 if you're very lucky. It took 3 for Nikki there. Kraken's not particularly dangerous. The whole shrine is not particularly dangerous, just a lot of the unrunnable encounters will waste a lot of time. So Nikki will see a little cutscene here showing yet another one of the bonus dungeons opening up now that Kraken's been defeated. Nehbless getting another encounter with Sahagin Prince and Chief, so he's doing his best to try to catch up, but the encounters are not helping him out right now. So Nehbless picks up the light axe to go ahead and do this glitch over here. Survival vest on the thief, black mage, and warrior. And we'll see what he tends to do on the white mage. Nikki, meanwhile, now that she's out of there, we're going to detour to this waterfall cave, which is nearby, to pick up another item we need for the next dungeon. At the very end of this one is a robot holding an item called the Warp Cube. We need that to access the Flying Fortress. So Nehbless is all set with the glitch here, and it's just going to head now to Kraken. Nikki getting an encounter with the Nightmares. Now that we've glitched a few more powerful armors onto our characters, it's actually more easy for us to run from Nightmares. So we'll actually try to run from them here, as opposed to trying to kill them as we did in the Citadel Trials. Nikki getting a green dragon encounter, which I believe is the only unrunnable in this waterfall cave. So that's a little unfortunate for her, but only one of them, so it's not a very huge time loss. Nehbless getting a water elemental pack over here, which is the other unrunnable encounter we haven't seen yet. Nikki getting a pair of Nightmares over here and gets away pretty cleanly. This whole waterfall cave that she's in right now, it's just one floor. It's just a long, windy cave, and it has a very, very high encounter rate. Nikki choosing not to take a safety save before this forced encounter tile, and she gets ambushed. So that could be a little dangerous. Probably not, but doesn't hurt to save there for safety's sake. Saving takes a few seconds, and unfortunately resetting or wiping takes far longer than that, so it's just a matter of runner preference and what you're willing to risk in this run. And that's totally up to the runners. So Nikki picks up the Warp Cube, and she's also going to stop and pick up this chest that he's standing next to. And inside is an item called the Ribbon, and we're going to perform yet another glitch here. And this is one of the more unique glitches in this one. We use the Ribbon. The item we actually want is the Ribbon, but we only have 1 copy of the Ribbon. So in order to get more copies of it, we first glitch the Ribbon into a weapon called the Geek Tax, and then take that off of our characters, make sure it's in our inventory, and then use the glitch to generate more copies of the Ribbon and put them on each of the characters. You'll notice that she equips it on the shield slot. There's actually 4 armor slots for each character, and we've only been putting items on the bottom 3 up until this point, as anything equipped on the shield slot may call up a block animation if it happens to be, if we happen to block in combat, it may call up a block animation, and most of the items you can glitch will call invalid block animations, and it could soft lock the game. The Ribbon is one of the few that actually has a valid block animation if you happen to block with it, so we put it on the shield slot because it's actually safe to do so. Most items will actually soft lock the game if you try to use them on the shield slot. So Nicky, now that she has the Rosetta Stone, will detour one last time to Melmond and give it over to this Dr. Un over here, who's able to translate it for us and then teach us the language of the Lufenians. And then once we have the language of the Lufenians, we'll teleport out and we'll actually head over to the town of Lufenia. And now that we can speak the Lufenian language, we can actually interact with the NPCs over there. And we'll pick up one last item we need to reach the next crystal. It's a 2-stage dungeon, the Mirage Tower and the Flying Fortress. And the entrance to each is guarded. We need a key item in order to access both. We need the Chime to access the Mirage Tower, and we need the Warp Cube, which we picked up in the Waterfall Cave. So we'll head here to Lufenia, and now that we can talk with them, we'll grab the Chime. So once we have that, we can go through the entirety of the Air Crystal Dungeon and head there all the way at the end. So Nehbless nearly through the Waterfall Cave. Nicky on the walk here to Lufenia and getting a pack of Minotaur zombies, which is an unrunnable encounter here as well. This is another encounter that can basically just slow you down. It's not a particularly dangerous section here. There's not much that's particularly dangerous from this point forward until the final dungeon, but we're just anything that's not dangerous could still just slow us down. And time loss is the worst enemy of this run right now, especially for Nehbless. So Nehbless is making his way back from the Waterfall Cave back to his airship. Nicky's reached Lufenia finally. And Lufenia is full of a lot of short corridors where these NPCs can actually block you. Gets lucky, none of them are in the way here. And picks up the Chime. When she's got that, she'll just teleport out, so we don't have to worry about the NPCs on the way out. Nehbless stopping over to translate the Rosetta Stone. So he's still just a few minutes behind Nicky at this point. Good morning, Shutstick. So Nicky's nearly made it back. She's on her ship, and now she can head to the Mirage Tower, which is located just over this mountain ridge here in the desert. So this Mirage Tower is only 3 floors deep, but this second floor in particular has a very, very high encounter rate. Nicky getting an ambush here, which is really just going to waste time. Now that she's got the ribbons equipped on her characters, she's not particularly vulnerable to any more status effects, so this is just going to slow her down. I would encourage almost everyone to, if you're interested at all in speedrunning, to give this a shot, as it's a pretty beginner-friendly speedrun. There's plenty of guides out there that can help get you through the game without much experience. There's not a lot of very crazy... I mean, even the equipment glitch that the runners have been using is relatively easy for newcomers to perform. It's not anything that would be a huge barrier to people. Nehbless picking up the chime. Nicky's almost through the second floor finally, and then there will be one more floor that she has to go through to get to the Flying Fortress. Getting another ambush, so Nicky's just having a slow time here on this particular Mirage Tower. Nehbless getting this Minotaur zombie troll encounter. Anything with a Minotaur zombie is unrunnable here. Yeah, I mean, that's what I used. I used Double Drops route. It was a little different than about a year ago when I first started running this game. But it's good enough to get you through the game, pretty much. Nicky running into this... There's a forced encounter with the Blue Dragon here as soon as you walk through the door. So she gets through that, and now she's into the Flying Fortress now that she's got the Warp Cube to get there. So there's 5 floors in the Flying Fortress. She's got to make her way through them one at a time. Again, nothing particularly dangerous in this dungeon here. On the 5th, except for the 5th floor. There's a rare encounter that may occur on the 5th floor. Evil Eye is an unrunnable encounter here. So it's just another slowdown for Nicky. The more slowdown she gets, the better Nehbless's chance are to try to make up some time in the final dungeon, because that's probably where he's going to have to make up his time right now. Nicky's now almost through the 3rd floor. Getting another ambush, though. Now she's on the 4th floor. This 4th floor is actually unique. It's actually an endless floor that you could walk in any direction endlessly. But if you look at it, it's actually only a 4x4 corridor map that just repeats endlessly if you keep walking in one direction. So the entrance is basically 2 up and 2 over, or 2 down and 2 over in any direction. I mean, a lot of the time lost in a race, a lot of it has to do with randomness, and a lot of time loss, yeah, it's definitely pathing and knowing where you're going can shave a lot of time up the run. And it's definitely probably the biggest advantage that veterans have over newer players. The encounter rate makes a huge difference, particularly in races, but it can also make a lot of difference in any percent runs, depending on your own runs. I mean, both the number of encounters and the types of encounters you get can make a huge factor. If you just get more than maybe 30 more encounters over the course of a run, because you can have as many as... There's probably a good variance of 30 or 40 encounters that can happen between runs. So that can cost you a lot of time, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So Nehbless is now into the Flying Fortress after getting through that. He looks to have made up a little bit of time. Nicky made her way through Tiamat here. Tiamat was another straightforward fight with just attacking with our barbarian swords to take him down. And we'll get one last cutscene here to show us the final bonus dungeon opening up. And then Nicky's going to head out of here and make her way over to the final dungeon, which was basically right at the start of the game. So Nicky actually manages to dodge she dodged the only dangerous encounter on this floor that can only occur on this floor, the Warmech, which is a little sad. We like to see Warmech on this, but didn't see it on Nicky's end. Maybe we'll see it on Nehbless's end. It only occurs on the 5th floor, and it's, I believe, a 1 in 64 chance to encounter that on that floor, and only that floor. So Nicky's made her way over here to the Chaos Shrine. This is going to be the entranceway to the final dungeon. So this is a short cutscene plays. This is a little cutscene that plays showing you the PSP exclusive bonus dungeon, the Labyrinth of Time opening up once you've obtained all the crystals here. So Nehbless is on the final floor of the Flying Fortress, and what? He's getting a pack of air elementals, which are actually a runnable encounter, but they may prove problematic to run from. We'll have to see. So Nicky presents the crystals over here, and this allows us to travel back in time to confront the demon Chaos. So Nicky begins here. I didn't see her take a save or anything like that, and she'll start by getting an encounter with a purple worm, the first of many unrunnable encounters throughout this dungeon. Nehbless, meanwhile, starting on Tiamat, so he's not far behind. He's just a few minutes. Nicky getting an encounter here with white dragons, which are runnable, but they can be particularly dangerous if you fail to run from them, or if you get ambushed by them. They will spam on it. They can spam an attack called Ice Storm, which can do enough damage to your party to just slowly wipe them out. Nicky getting green dragons here, which are also unrunnable. Preempted with Dark Wizards and Dark Fighters, which are not particularly dangerous here. These Black Knights, not particularly dangerous. He's getting a lot of encounters here, and particularly unrunnable encounters, so this is slowing her down a bit, giving Nehbless a little chance to catch up. So Nicky makes her way over here finally. We got no War Mech on Nehbless' side. Nicky's into an encounter here with Death Eye. Not a dangerous encounter for us. It's just a forced one over here. And then right here, there's an object blocking our path. There's a staircase underneath that. And the only way to remove it is to play this item, the loot, which we obtained 3 minutes into the game. So Nicky now begins her descent to the lower floors to confront each of the elemental fiends on their refights, and then finally the demon chaos at the bottom. I'm getting an encounter here with Ice Gigas Winterwolf, and this particularly odd encounter with 5 enemies makes it so she's probably going to have to use a half strategy of attacking with her melee characters and staffing with her other characters, as the Black Mage's damage roll with Judgment Staffs is going to be enough to kill off the Ice Gigases. It's, again, another unrunnable encounter. This is one of the worst floors for unrunnable encounters in this dungeon. She gets another pack, and this is a slightly larger pack again. So she's got to make sure that she specifically tells her characters to attack these Ice Gigases. Alternatively, she can defend with everyone and then use the staff with the White Mage, and with the Lordly Robes they equipped earlier, that will be enough to one-shot everyone, because the White Mage will do significantly more damage with the higher intelligence that she has. Nehbless begins the dungeon. Another pack of Ice Gigas Winterwolf is really, really slowing her down and giving Nehbless a real opportunity here. Actually, that's really unfortunate for Nicky, because that's probably not going to kill the Ice Gigas and require another attack. Nehbless getting green dragons, so this is getting a little closer now, because she got 3 of these on the 3 of those encounters on that floor, and I know that feel. I've had that happen to me. Another pack of this. Oh my god, this is really giving Nehbless a huge opportunity here. So long as he does not get the same set of encounters on this floor, he's definitely made up some time on this, just due to the encounter luck that Nicky's been getting at this point. That was a really, really slow floor for her, and a really unfortunate set of 4 encounters with Ice Gigas and Winterwolf. This particular floor tends to be full of white dragons and purple worms, especially. I don't recall seeing Nicky save, so if she gets really, really unlucky, this could be dangerous. She just keeps herself healed in case she gets more of them. Nehbless at the Death Eye. Purple Worm encounter here for Nicky, unrunnable. And Nehbless starts the little loot cutscene that plays to start reaching the floor. He's only 2 floors behind right now. He might be 3 floors behind by the end of this cutscene, though. And Nicky makes it off that floor. So now Nicky's onto the first of the Elemental Fiend refight floors. So this one contains a bunch of encounters that are with Earth-themed, and at the end of the floor, Lich will be guarding the stairway before we can exit this floor. Let's see what Nehbless gets, though. Nehbless gets an Ice Gigas Winterwolf, so that's evening out things a little bit. And Nehbless is taking an alternate strategy. He's just going to staff with his White Mage, who will do enough damage to take the party out, instead of trying to attack with his melees and then staff the wolves. So Nikki actually made pretty good work on that floor pretty quickly and reached the Lich, and she's got pretty full health. The only danger here is Lich can cast Flare, the same as our Judgment Staffs use, and party members that are under 300 health or slightly over 300 may be at risk of dying right there. But Nikki gets away with it. So Nikki's now onto the second floor, which is a refight with Merilith, and a bunch of the fire enemies from her shrine. Nehbless getting white dragons, but he got through that floor pretty quickly compared to Nikki, so he might have made up a little bit of time, but it might not be enough at this point. The water, or the next floor, will probably be the real difference maker, and if it's not, then Chaos is the only other place he can make up time. So Nikki's now on the refight with Merilith. This is another pretty straightforward fight. Merilith has a chance to cast Viraga, but it's not particularly a risk to our party if they're at near full health. Alright, Nehbless just gets one more encounter, and it's unrunnable, so that's slowing him down more. Okay, Nikki's now onto Kraken's floor, and this particular encounter with water elementals is what can really slow her down a lot right here. If she gets enough of these, there's definitely room for Nehbless to make up some time here. Nehbless is doing alright. He's almost to the end of Lich's floor here. Nikki gets an encounter one tile before Kraken, and it's an unrunnable. Nehbless steps onto the Lich tile and starts the fight, and his characters look to be pretty full health, so he shouldn't be in danger even if Lich happens to use Flare. Nope, no problems there. Nikki steps onto the Kraken tile and forces this refight. Refights are pretty, again, all the same except for Tiamat. Tiamat has a bit more health than he did the first time. So in the interest of trying to make sure that it's not going to end in the interest of trying to end it in 2 rounds, we'll actually have our Black Mage haste our ninja to try to speed things up a little bit. The first use of haste in the fight and in the entire run. And really the only reason we picked up haste was for the Tiamat, the second Tiamat fight, and the final fight with Chaos. So Nikki is 2 refights ahead right now, just a few minutes. It's a short walk to Tiamat here. Did Nikki try to... Nope, Nikki tried not to haste here. Nikki's just going to go for it with her attacks and see if she can get enough damage out of the rolls to get it down in 2 rounds. Gets enough of it, so it's probably a little bit faster than hasting, just not quite as guaranteed. Nehbless down with Merilith. So Nikki makes it to the final floor, so now she's going to do a quick little glitch setup to before the Chaos fight, and then she's just going to heal and make sure she's got ethers on her, or ethers her white mage to make sure he's got enough MP for the fight. Did she not save? That's risky to not save here. I didn't see her save, and I'm not even sure she put the staff on, the golden staff. We're supposed to be... Have to see what's going on here. I'm not sure if she goofed or if she's just playing it really, really risky here. Normally we perform 1 glitch to put an item called the golden staff. I didn't see the staff get put on, so I must have missed that one while she was doing it. I know I saw her take the clothes off, or put the clothes back on. That helps to just guarantee that the white mage acts last in the combat order, or at least has a reasonably good chance of doing that. So the strategy here is she trying to... She's going to haste the ninja. She looks to have enough health on her character. She obviously threw a tonic on the Black Mage to try to raise his maximum HP. That won't be necessary for Nehbless because his Black Mage already has a lot of HP. Chaos using his slow attacks here, though. Blaze and Tsunami to start off. Nicky's not particularly in trouble yet. It's just a bit of a time loss. So yeah, she definitely has enough. She's definitely getting enough heals from her character, so she definitely has the staff on. She's opted not to tonic the Thief, though, so the Thief might be at risk here, which might slow her down a little bit. Probably not enough to... Yeah, I'm not surprised that he died there. So we'll have to see if she tries to recover that or if she's just going to go for it. I imagine she's just going to go for it at this point. So losing the Thief here is just going to slow her down a little bit, but probably not enough to stop her, unless Chaos happens to be slowed enough to use his Kiraja magic to heal himself by 10,000. Or a really, really unfortunate critical attack by Chaos. Nehbless down with Tiamat. Casting Slowra over here. And it misses. That's pretty good for Nicky. So Nicky's nearly done with this at this point. And should have this at this point. Earthquake shouldn't do anything to her characters. Just trying to dodge a Kiraja at this point. And she's got it. Chaos down. So Nicky is the winner of this race. And she'll continue on in the winner's bracket here. Nehbless will unfortunately drop down. That was a very, very solid run by Nicky, though. 132 is a perfectly solid race time. We'll see Nehbless start the final fight. So Nehbless starts off by using tonic on his ninja. It shouldn't be... Oh, he's actually going to tonic his Black Mage. That was probably totally unnecessary with the amount of health he had, but won't hurt to have it. His Black Mage had more than enough health to survive most of the attacks, other than maybe a very unfortunate critical from Chaos. So there was no real danger there, but it's usually a safety strat. The Black Mage usually has far less HP than at this point of the run, so it's usually a much safer strat to use a tonic as well on the Black Mage. Yep, he's hasting up his characters one at a time with the Black Mage, and he's just using his melee fighters to attack and do as much damage as possible. Chaos has 20,000 HP, so we're just trying to burn through that before Chaos can use his Kiraja attack and prolong the fight. Chaos casting Slowra, not particularly dangerous, especially if it misses. It just may slow us down and require us to haste a character back up. The only attacks we're particularly looking to avoid are like Blaze, Tsunami, and Cyclone, as they waste lots of time. And they do a lot of damage. If they happen in the early rounds of the fight, it can be kind of devastating and might necessitate a reset. But Nehbless looks to be in pretty solid control here. So this should probably take one or two more rounds. there it is, 134.55 for Nehbless. So about a 3-minute difference total. So both did pretty good here. See if we can bring them in for an interview or not. Let's see. Oops. Hello, Nikki.
Hey there.
Congratulations on the win.
Thanks. Yeah, as you could see, I did not watch the Speed Gaming channel, else I would probably have saved before Chaos.
Yeah, I didn't see you save before that, so I was wondering if you were just playing it kind of a little risky.
I just didn't see it and was like, well, 1:31:52 is not a time, like in that area every second counts. So I just chose to decide that Chaos is not dangerous enough.
So you said you weren't watching it, so you weren't really aware of where he was?
No, I was like, he has a PB like me, so I expect like he could always be on like a 1:30 to 1:32 pace.
Yeah. And I see we have Nehbless in here too.
Hi.
Congratulations on finishing.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it was a little bit of a tough loss, but I mean, Nicky was getting pretty good RNG, and you were getting a little worse, it looked like.
God, I hate these schools. I got like 6 stun locking back attacks in the early game. I was like, come on, game.
Yeah, you were getting a lot. You were getting a lot of.
In the end, I just got a lot of unrunnables.
You were having particular trouble with like undead enemies at the start. It looked like.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, it seemed like you were both doing pretty good paces on this race. I mean, nobody really got horribly trolled with like encounters. I mean, it seemed like both of you were just making pretty good progress. Nicky was just, for whatever reason, going a little bit faster on this run.
Yeah, I got a couple of really bad sea encounters at the beginning. Other than that, it wasn't too bad, except Chaos Shrine, where I really got trolled by unrunnable encounters.
I think I saw Nicky get 4 Ice Gigas Winter Wolves in a row on that one floor.
I got 4 Ice Gigas alone in Chaos Shrine, and 1 in Ice Cave. It was... game let me alone.
I've had that happen to me. It's not very fun.
It's like, okay, game, we already know.
I don't know. It looks like with that win, Nicky will advance in the winner's bracket, and her opponent isn't determined yet.
Yeah, Cruel or Leonis, they will have to still race each other.
And unfortunately for Nehbless, it looks like you're going to drop down to face
Double drop.
It looks like. So that will be quite a challenge.
It's going to be a tough race, yeah, so we'll see. Anything can happen in this game.
Yeah, we've seen, especially in doubles last race, anything can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like for people with RPBs, it's like if you get good RNG, you can get sub 130. If you get bad RNG, yes, and you have a 134 plus, and there is nothing you can do. And in that case, basically everyone in the tournament can beat you.
Yeah, I believe Nehbless, you PB'd, I think, just last night, was it?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, just yesterday with like a 126, which is, I believe, good enough for 3rd place, I believe?
It is 3rd place, yes.
Yeah. So congratulations on that. I haven't even gotten one up there yet, but I've been trying for quite a while.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, at the top, most of the runners that are capable of like 130 or less are pretty even in these races, and a lot of it just comes down to the choices you make in the run or the RNG you get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so if you guys
definitely mostly RNG, not too many choices to make.
Yeah, I was trying to see if he could catch up once you started getting all those Ice Gigas Winter Wolves, but it didn't seem like he was getting enough help. So I think we're going to be all set here. I think there's some other races coming up here, but not FF1, I don't believe today. Actually, there might be another FF1 race tonight, but like around 9 o'clock, I think, Eastern time. But otherwise, I think there's a whole lot of Ori races and I think some Super Metroid thrown in there today. So we'll throw this back over to Feasel and let them get set up for the next race. So thank you everyone for watching. Thanks Nicky and Nehbless for the race. And thanks again to Feasel for hosting us here. And we'll see you guys next time, or hopefully tonight for the following race. Alrighty. Take care.
See ya.
See ya.